but something so much greater than us. They are of people like my mom and my dad and my grandfathers and your grandfathers and aunts and uncles and brothers and sisters that had the courage to find freedom. This moment isn't my moment or even the moment of the college. It's the moment of this community. It's the moment of each one of us. It's the moment of the dreams for our children, for their children, and for the generations to come. We could not be here without the sacrifices our parents made and grandparents, but we wouldn't be standing here today without the Martin family. And I would like Pedro to stand and be recognized along with his wife and children. When the tower shuttered closed, and it could have just been another building, it could have been another high-rise, the Mas family and Jorge Macanosa had a dream. And it was one simple dream, a free Cuba. And that this building could represent and recognize that. And if not for the Mas family to first rescue it, and the Martin family to then bring us this moment, to entrust the community's college. You see, I hope today you take the time to visit the towers. Because the first tower is about Julia Tuttle, about Flagler, and about the train that still goes by at 5 o'clock during rush hour traffic. It's about, fortunately, oranges that could survive here, and she called them and said it needed to come to Miami from Palm Beach. And the second tower is about Governor Cox. He ran for the President of the United States and he lost. So what did he do? Someone else goes to do something else. He decides that he wants to build Miami's tallest skyscraper. For what? To tell the Miami story, for the Miami Daily News. So if you love architecture, that's where you want to wander and see what Stern Weaver put together in this magical tower. And the third one is such an important moment in this tower, because it's July of 1925, and Miami puts out a paper that's called the Miami Daily News. And if you could believe this, it was 504 pages and 7.5 pounds that told our story. And there you see that moment. And the first tower there is this room, because you're sitting in a refugio. You're sitting in a place that was divided by barriers of walls of doctors and dentists who could not practice anywhere in the United States. Outside the door it said doctors needed, no U.S. license required. It's where so many found their family doctor who'd come here too, searching for freedom. It's where the Catholic services and Jewish services and community came together to help someone fill out a paper like my mom, so they could start the visa waiver program. It had a wall that was la pizarra de oportunidad, that is upstairs. It's the wall of luck. It's the wall of opportunity. It's the wall when you needed your first job babysitting for 33 cents, you could find it there. That's where we're sitting, in this room. And when we started this project, we stood in this room, in this empty room, and said, you know, we can't let this magical room become a refugio. Although people were like saying, well, you have to recreate it, because we wanted this room to be today. And so we recreated it in that tower. That's what you see in that tower. the following tower, it's the tower that Celia Cruz sings outside these doors for the first and for the last time, the song. Draped with the Cuban flag. Por si acaso no regreso, tengo mi bandera. That's the story of that tower. It's this tower, the Martin family. That last tower is the tower of the love affair that Miami-Dade College and the Freedom Tower share. You see, Miami-Dade College opened its doors in the 1960, September 6, 1960, 65 years ago, at the North Campus. Imagine that campus. And imagine our own family, like my mother, who went there to study English to become a teacher. The former president of this college, Eduardo Padron, that was a student at the North Campus. He's at that tower because only God and only the great America allows and creates an opportunity and hope that a young man who traveled as a young boy and Pedro Pang becomes the president of Miami-Dade College, and only some young girl from Hialeah who played basketball one day returns to the college as its president. And only God in this great states of America allows her the privilege of a lifetime to give to each of you this gift, the gift of us. Because 100 years later, this tower, when you go upstairs and you go through the exhibit, it's the story of us. And when you stand in the skylight room, which is beautiful and bright, and it was the first press room, it still is telling the story of us, the story of our Miami. There's a reason we call it the Magic City, because today it's magic. This is the magical moments that life gives us. These are the magical moments God gives us. And so I want to thank every one of you for being here. When we sent out the emails, we didn't know if you got them or didn't got them. And at one time I said, Miriam, maybe nobody's going to show up. Did you invite so-and-so? I felt like an old vieja when their daughter was getting married and they wanted like the second cousin that went to New Jersey, like Carlos Migoya did, and have them come for the wedding. And like an old lady, it was 1 o'clock in the morning and I would send crazy text messages of people that I would remember, and I would say, it's only my mother. Invitates a la tía. Invitates a Cookie. So here you are, because this moment is for you. This moment is for every one of you and what you do in this community. This moment is for each one of us, how we've held our hands, given each other a hug, and helped each other through. But nobody arrives to this moment alone. I didn't do this by myself. And if you all know, I can't ever be scripted, and I don't read scripts or teleprompters. But my team gave me these papers like they gave Jorge Plasencia, so I wouldn't leave anybody out, like he did. And I see Tom Fabricio and Depi Busada and Alex Rizzo and Romeo Brito and Emilio Stefan. I see so many of you and friends that are here. But let me go through some people who really made this happen, that I owe so much gratitude for. And the first and foremost is the District Board of Trustees. This was a dream. And just like our parents didn't know sometimes how they'd pay the next bill, but somebody told them, just keep going. You all told me, just keep going. Just keep going. So without you, I'm not here, and without you, we're not standing here. And I want to say, Chairman Michael Baleka, stand up. Vice Chair, the Honorable Roberto Alonso. A champion of democracy and freedom, Marcel Felipe. Ismari Monreal. Juan Segovia. Jose Felix Diaz. And Anai Abraham. And then I want all the former trustees, Marily Cancio, Helen Aguirre Ferrer, Bernie Navarro, Leslie Pantine. This college is not anything without you all. Thank you. Thank you. Carlos Migoya, who's not sitting where he's supposed to, also former trustee. Thanks for that vote of confidence. The members of the Miami-Dade College Foundation, starting with our chair, Jorge Plasencia. George, we've been friends for so many years. We've buried our moms. Our dads were bankers, and who could have imagined when we asked you to be the chair, we would share in this moment here together. I love you and I value you always. Pablo Pino, our vice chair and former chair. Carlos Guzman says that's always the best title ever. Our team at the college, Provost Malou C. Harrison. Two people whom I know we would not have arrived to opening today in September. When I said we would open up September, first day of Hispanic Heritage, kind of made sense, you know, you just drop those days. We walked this a month ago and people said, you're not opening in a month. I don't think we technically have, if any of the inspectors are in here, have like the full occupancy thing, but no pasó nada. En buen momento, no ha pasado nada. That is Dr. Miriam Borrego, Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer. The college isn't always just the workforce engine. That's a really important part of our mission as Democracy's College, but it's also the cultural engine of this community. Whether it's arts or the book fair or music or theater, you've had a moment of art and culture because of Miami-Dade College. Our leader, our Executive Director of Cultural Affairs, Maria Carla Chicuen. Thank you. Thank you for indulging all the crazy texts, all the moments, the vision for the towers, and they kept coming back to convince me maybe the towers couldn't happen. So you would all know this. We would do mataburros. Heide and Jose Dans took a chance at it too. We built these things to figure out what size they needed to be and if they could fit. And here are the towers. That's magic. And then there's the scholars. The scholars keep it real, keep it serious when we want to hang something that you can't and it doesn't meet the historian's thing. And that's our team at the Museum of Art and Design, starting with our Executive Director and Chief Curator, Amy Galvin, who probably is not here. Amy, without a doubt, is running around with, probably checking exhibits out right now, or with Clara Toro. Where is Clara Toro? Clara has taken 350 plus pictures that you will see upstairs in the Voices of Miami, which is the oral history of everyone in Miami that has shared their story. Whether you came through the doors or whether you're a bookseller in Little Haiti, our stories are there and we wanted to capture that. The members of the Freedom Tower Centennial Committee. Emilio, if you have a little idea, just go have lunch with Emilio, because he makes it enormous idea. That theater theater, when you walk into the introductory theater, was Emilio's vision. When we said, don't you think we need a theater? And he said, yes, but it has to be a curved wall, and music, and Miami. And the host committee, every step of the way, provided that kind of insight. Jimmy and Vivian Quiroga, I know all of you want this pin. They created the pin for the Freedom Tower Centennial. Remedios Oliver, who couldn't be here with us. So one day I say to Remedios, I need you. And she says, what do you need? And I said, just convene all the cool women. I never get invited to those women who lunch. Can we have a women who lunch moment? She goes, mijita, sí? And with her partner in crime, Lilian Machado, we put together the best women in Miami. And that way, and the only way that we've learned everything we've learned from our parents, Lillian reached over, squeezed my hand, and said, count with my support. Thank you. That meant the world to me. There's someone special that I have to talk about in this moment on our host committee. If you know him, he doesn't like any committees whatsoever. He doesn't like his name on anything, and that's Max Alvarez. So he teamed us up with Carmen because we wanted to make sure that Pedro Pan was told here, that the 14,000 children like Max and Tony Arguez, also on our host committee, that we told the story here, that there could be nowhere else that we would share the Pedro Pan story. And you trusted us to do it. You trusted us and you invested in us, along with Mike and others who said, let's do it. And when you go upstairs, if I ever wanted to make somebody proud in this museum, was to all the girls and boys of Pedro Pan. What courage your parents had, but what courage you had to stay the course. To be 14 or 15 or 16 and not know what would happen next, but to believe. And you are not only champions of freedom and democracy, but you're champion of believers. You're champion of believers. We get to tell our children about 14-year-olds that had nothing when they complain about their phone battery died or something. You will be remembered for generations to come as those that no barriers we can't break through, that no opportunity can be left behind or squandered, and that no sacrifice that our mothers and fathers make for us can ever go by the wayside. Thank you to each of you that made up our host committee, as Pedro Pan, Vivian Beleca, I mean so many. If you could just stand, I'd like to make sure everyone recognizes our host committee, Pepe and Heide, Max, Carmen, Tony. I'm off script, so now I'm really making them worry so much. So now we'll get to some of the brick and mortar stuff. I want to say that Governor DeSantis couldn't be here today, but what a champion. When we said we need $25 million, he came, he stood here in front of a podium that said Patria y Vida. And our entire Miami-Dade delegation, if you can stand up to be recognized. Alex Rizzio, Tom Fabricio, Alexis, Demi, Omar, Vicky. Barquin, you get up because you voted yes. You were there. You said yes. And I thought we won. We hit a home run, $25 million. Esto no es nada. We got this. And then we had our first meetings with local projects that made the vision become a reality. And I go, ay, mamá, Babi Kane y la 79 los vamos. that entire team at Local Projects. Marcel Felipe said something to me one day, no deja que los gringos digan la historia. And boy, that stuck firm. When I met with Local Projects, I think half the meeting was in Spanish. I would curate these moments. Look, Maria Carla's laughing. She didn't know whether to cry or not when I would whip out my Cuban stories. And then I would say, no, go interview 100 more people. You didn't get it right. We're not putting the Florida room over here. And it didn't look like that. You need a white couch with plastic. And then you're in our living room, not our Florida room. Because these chairs are really symbolic of our then dining rooms and Florida room with rattan. So when I wasn't sure about these chairs, they said, but it's a very Cuban chair. I go, okay. But Local Projects, Media Pro, when you see the digital magic of this building and it comes to life in the way that we gather information, know that it's Media Pro alongside Local Projects. MC Harry, Via, Richard Heisenbottle. What amazing team of designers to think we could do, and for always saying yes. Maybe you didn't want to, but thank you for saying yes, at least to me, and letting the team handle the no. But we'd all come back to yes, that everything was possible. Because if we could come through these doors without anything, clearly we could make this magical place it is today, along with Riggs Ward. Thank you. Our multiple partners and collaborators, and before I go there, can the Thornton construction team and the state construction team stand and be recognized? Leadership requires crazy and courage, and you had both to follow us on this project. Thank you so much. And now to our partners. When you go up to the 3rd and the 4th floor, there's a FIFA museum called Unidos, which is about uniting all of us, because we know that football unites. Yes. They have been a great partner, not because they're here in the Freedom Tower, but because they've provided opportunities to our students. More than 35 students already internships, 8 already hired full-time. Our students are just amazed at the opportunities, and we look forward to our partnership, and along with our local FIFA team and Alina right in the back there, as we celebrate in 2026 the World Cup. I cannot say FIFA without saying Carlos Cordero. Thank you, Carlos. You have been a confidant. You have been a friend. And man, you have accepted orders from pushy ladies. Your mom is one amazing mom because she raised you well to just say, sí, yes, yes, we can do that. The Knight Foundation, Ceci Quesada's here. Maribel couldn't be with us. But when we went and we shared to the Knight team that's here, this project, they immediately said, yes, count on us, and invested and kept me off the street somewhere begging for other money, and I really appreciate that. The Wolfson family, Randy, Chris, you're here. Thank you for always saying yes. The Pedro Pan Museum, stand, and thank you so much. The Bay of Pigs Museum and Library, the Archdiocese of Miami, the University of Miami Library's Cuban Heritage Collection, History Miami, St. Thomas University, FIU Special Collections and University Archives, the Celia Cruz Foundation, the Miami Herald and Nuevo Herald, Dario Las Americas, Nelson, Gracia, Helen Aguirre Ferrer, Gracia. When you go to the Skylight Room, you will see the papers there. It is a special treat. The National Victims of Communism, the Shepherd Broad Foundation, the Ortega Foundation, República Havas. If you love this logo, that was the team of the Freedom Tower. Thank you. When you go upstairs, you get a little Versalles and cafecito. Thank you to the team at Versalles. At Cactus, Miami, U.S. Century Bank, the DDA and Christina Crespi, O'Donnell and Goldberg Public Relations, you have done an amazing job telling our story. I would like to ask everyone that is a Miami-Dade College Hall of Fame inductee to please stand and be recognized. When the Miami Today publishes the best of Miami, I think they just have to publish this group. Thank you for all of your contributions to the college. And one special recognition. If you came through the Freedom Tower, if you walked through these doors when it was a refugio, with your dreams for freedom, for libertad, and for hope and opportunity, please stand. If you were a political prisoner, and maybe you didn't come through a refugio, but you gave up so many years of your life, if you were a political prisoner, or if your mother or father was a political prisoner, please stand. We honor you today and always for your sacrifices. To the courageous men of La Brigada, if you're here, we want you to stand and be recognized, and if you're a daughter or a son of one of our brigade courageous men, please stand. Our generation will be indebted to you forever. And I stand here with so many of us to feel that I feel that we were born into an amazing generation of creative and courageous and loving men and women. And that we raise our families in that same way, and that we stand here today to promise you that those sacrifices will stay here, present forever. Thank you, and God bless each of you.
Came with nothing. All of us came homeless, with nothing.
Que puede tener toda una vida si no tiene libertad como el total precio.
That came unaccompanied.
Tanta separación y tanto sufrimiento.
The exiles did to try to fight for their freedom. These are truly human stories.
The Cuban story.
So you're getting to Miami. You're now in Miami, and the first thing you see is our beautiful and beloved Freedom Tower. Miami of the early 60s, and how a culture was transplanted. All the institutions that were in Cuba that were transplanted here.
It was so important from the beginning, not just to complete the renovation on time for the Centennial and to do it properly, to make sure that we worked with historic restoration architects to restore every element of the original architecture.